Hey everybody, welcome in. Got episode 11 here with Dr. Whiting. And today we're been doing some research on YouTube, and we came across this guy, Dad Bod Fitness, and it made us realize that yes, there's a lot of nonsense on the internet. Yes, there's a lot of misinformation. Yes, there's a lot of, I guess what you would call armchair nutritionists, doctors, dietitians that are still, stuck in the 1970s. But Dad Bod Fitness is actually a really cool guy, really giving some really solid advice. Now, not everybody has all the answers, of course, because everyone's body is different. But there are some of his videos that he gives really, really good advice on. For example, I think the video title is Struggling to Lose Weight. And the message is the scale is stopping you from reaching your weight loss goal. You've said that for 20 years.
I've been preaching that forever and ever. And this is why. The human body does not remain static.
Yeah.
It fluctuates. The amount of fluid you're holding can change from one day to the next, depending upon environment, depending upon a whole host of things. Well, nothing in the body is heavier than water.
Yeah.
And you can lose, people go, wow, I lost 4 pounds overnight. No, you didn't. You lost 4 pounds of water.
Yeah.
Because it's the only thing you can lose. So jumping on the scale constantly creates far more stress than it does benefit. And I've always told my weight management clients, don't weigh yourself more than once a week, and even every 2 weeks is better. Because you've got to allow the body to find its own synergy, its own level of stability. And if you're hopping on that scale, I've dealt with people that have been on, weigh themselves 2 or 3 times a day.
I remember.
That's just neurotic. And he's right about that. That's one of the greatest pitfalls of weight management is that obsessive behavior. It's just terrible.
Yeah. And another really good message that he had was a video titled Why You Failed to Lose Fat. And his message in the video is really interesting. He admits that he eats pizza, ice cream, and even minorly indulges sometimes. But since he's looking at the big picture of his health long term and his fitness long term, it allows him to enjoy his life. And that's another thing that you've always said for 20 years.
Yep. If you're looking forward to an entire lifetime of dieting.
Yeah, that's not.
Come on.
You're not going to be excited about that.
No wonder people quit and give up.
Yeah.
Who wants that's worse than a prison sentence. And one of the things that I built into our weight management program, which basically provides the same or does the same thing that he's talking about, is what I call the cheat day.
Yeah.
And the cheat day does several things. Psychologically, you're never more than a week away from having any kind of food or drink that you like.
In any
amount. Okay. All just a week away.
And that was kind of his message on the video. It was a really good message.
Yeah. And so psychologically, you don't feel as deprived. Physiologically, that jumpstart change in your diet actually stimulates your metabolism. And I've had people, once they're into the program, they'll have that cheat meal, say on a Saturday night, and by Monday, they're 2 pounds lighter instead of heavier.
It used to happen to me every time.
Yeah.
After my cheat day, 2 or 3 days later, I would actually finally, when I had my weight loss goals of me losing the 60 pounds, it happened every time, and it was so weird. And it's so neat that relatable people on YouTube actually are spreading that information like Dad Bod Fitness, because it's really good information. It's quality information. Another one that we wanted to talk about, the video titled Inspiring Real Life 5-Year Transformation. And his message in that video is nothing worthwhile happens overnight. Exactly another thing you've said forever. And it's probably, that's something that I really held on to when you helped me lose my 60 pounds. Because it took me 9 to 10 months to lose the 60 pounds. And you said, look, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It matters if we do it the right way, and then you'll keep it off. And look,
and you have.
And I'm keeping it off.
Never had a problem with regaining it.
Nope.
Well, and I always say, and I will say so forever, is that the faster you lose weight, the more likely it will be that you regain it.
Yeah. And I think that was his message on that video too.
Yeah. And now I just read an article over the weekend about beautiful Ozempic.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know that they have now had enough people in studies to find out what's really going on?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And what happens is that the majority of weight people are losing on that drug is muscle mass.
Yeah.
It's not fat. And the more muscle mass you lose, the more likely you will regain body fat.
Yeah.
Just the way it works. It's simple physiology.
Yep. Another title that we saw was he got his wife involved with it. The name of the video is Secret Behind Wife's 40-Pound Weight Loss. And the message of that video was she started with building muscle, not counting calories. And of course, not everyone has the option to do that because not everybody's physically able to do that. But the not counting calories and building muscle, if you can do it, is exactly the way you started me. So that's why I was like, oh, I relate to that so much.
The higher the percentage of muscle mass that you have,
yeah,
the higher your metabolism goes, which means it's easier to lose weight, it's easier to maintain weight loss. Any kind of program that you're on that actually catabolizes lean muscle is going to, in the long run, make your situation 10 times worse.
Yeah. And that's something that was kind of built into your weight management plan that I've seen for 20 years is the calorie counting. Unless you're calorie sensitive, that's...
And even if you are, you have to do it properly to make sure you're not losing significant muscle mass.
Yeah. Yeah, and for those people that are carb intolerant, and if you know you're carb intolerant and you think counting calories is the way, you're
not.
You're never going to figure it out
No.
like that. And I think that's what he was trying to point out in that video. Another one of his great videos, and the last one that we're going to talk about today, but we're going to keep doing research, is the dark truth about Nucific BioX4 weight management supplement. And the message in that video was not everything works the same for everyone, and not everyone's going to get the same results. And we noticed that he got a lot of hate for that video, but it was kind of unwarranted because people didn't watch the whole thing. They just saw a little snippet and judged him on that when he wasn't really saying it was bad. It's just not everyone's going to get that same results. And you're very, a big...
When you rely on any of these things, whether it's a supplement, whether it is a drug...
Or a diet.
First of all, these things are designed to help accelerate weight loss.
Yeah.
And we go back to the founding principle of my philosophy. The faster you lose weight, the easier you will regain it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether you're using a drug, a dietary supplement, a crash diet, a fasting diet. The faster you lose weight, the faster and easier you will likely regain it. And this is because of a metabolic rebound effect that takes place in the body due to the production of starvation hormones. And he's absolutely right. What works for one person is not going to work for another because we are all biochemical individuals. And you have to find out what's right, what's in sync with your chemistry. And that's the beauty of our weight management program. That's exactly what we do. We find out how your body responds to various foods, other lifestyle factors, and we build a program around it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it goes to show that there are people out there on the internet, and for example, like YouTube, like Dad Bod Fitness, that are really giving good advice. And we just kind of, since we saw it and he was doing his research on it and I did mine, we figured we would just give him a shout out, because it's a noble thing to be giving good advice to people, because he obviously
there's
researched
so much crap on the internet that I mean, it's unbelievable what's out there.
So it's really good that somebody out there is fighting the good fight. Next up is PCOS, insulin resistance, cortisol, and stress management. We've talked a lot about insulin resistance on other videos and podcasts and all that. And insulin resistance, which can cause high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, and obesity. Other factors involved with insulin resistance is called PCOS. Today we're kind of going to discuss what that is and how it relates to insulin resistance.
Well, here you go again, which is what we were talking about on a previous episode about how much nonsense is on the internet.
Yeah.
There's a ton of videos talking about different types of PCOS. PCOS, by the way, is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So obviously we're talking about a problem that women have, not men. And they talk about these different types. I almost can assure you that regardless of which type, and I use that loosely, that you have been told you have, I almost guarantee you that at least to some extent, insulin resistance is involved in all of them.
Yeah.
It's a vicious cycle. What insulin does saves your life, keeps you alive, but out of control, it slowly destroys you from the inside. Because insulin is one of the most highly pro-inflammatory hormones we know of. And when it's produced to excess, a whole variety of things can take place. Well, that inflammation then knocks over another domino, which creates another problem, which is internal physical stress due to excess inflammation. That stress then creates another whole litany of problems, and so it just keeps unraveling. But the core of this whole thing, whether it be obesity, type 2 diabetes, hypoglycemia, PCOS, at the core of all of these things is a condition called insulin resistance, which is caused by excess insulin production.
And so how does cortisol play a role in all of that?
Well, cortisol is one of the key stress hormones, and in moderation, it can save your life. But to excess, which most of us are in a state of what we call excessive cortisol production 24/7 because of a stressful lifestyle.
Yeah.
Well, if you have something like PCOS, stress is living death. It'll make your symptoms 100 times worse. So how would you know if you had, or you might have excess cortisol? Well, if your eyes twitch like that repeatedly, waking up at between 2 and 4 a.m. every morning, constantly feeling overwhelmed, exhausted during the day, and then you lay down at night and can't fall asleep, water retention in the face, you look puffy, you bruise easy, you have stubborn belly fat around the midsection, and you have cravings for salt and sugary foods. Those are some of the things that would indicate to us that you have an excess cortisol level in your system.
And so that's just directly stress, the cortisol, the inflammation, it's all just playing a role against the insulin.
Poor individual, exactly right.
And so what kind of natural things can someone do to help manage PCOS?
Well, we use a program that's quite similar, not exact, but quite similar to someone who has insulin resistance or diabetes. So the first thing we want to do is to try to get insulin levels under control, to drop them, to lower them.
Yeah.
And we do that with a combination of diet and nutrients. Chromium, vanadium, aspartic acid, bitter melon, those types of things are very good.
And so you just described the blood sugar support at phoenixvitamins.com.
Yes, that's
Okay.
that's what we developed that formula for. But in addition to that, for individuals with PCOS, we would recommend a stress support formula because we want to get the stress levels, the cortisol levels down as quickly as possible. We also want to use a natural anti-inflammatory because since insulin is so highly inflammatory, we want to do what we can, at least in the short term while we're getting that under control, to give the body some relief from the excess inflammation that also causes. But insulin resistance can be dietary induced. It can also be hereditary. And as a result, when someone develops PCOS, their body produces extra male hormones or androgens. And so we need to look at doing some things dietary-wise, which we can, that will help to offset that excess male hormone.
And so the product like blood sugar support and natural anti-inflammatory support is what you're talking about. And the blood sugar support is what helps bring the levels of insulin production to where they need to be.
Yes.
And lower cravings. This would be a great formula for those women?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would use 4. I would use, of course, a good full spectrum supplement because you know my thoughts on that, balancing body chemistry. Then I would use the blood sugar support. I would use the natural anti-inflammatory support. And in the case of these ladies, probably my stress support formula.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I hope that sheds some light on PCOS and how insulin and cortisol and stress all interact with each other, kind of like a battle. And see you next time.